Alright lads, we finally have the new Guda event released, and with this event we have Izumo finally coming to the NA version of the game. And if you have been following the channel for about the better half of this year, you know that I have been spotlighting this unit as someone to look out for, kind of a sleeper pick during this year, because I know she's a quick servant, but hear me out, she's a quick single target. You know, I know quick AoEs have a little bit of a bad rap because, well, they don't really loop as well as, say, your art servants, and they really can't hit the heights that your buster servants are going to hit with, say, Koyenskaya and Oberon. But the single targets, quick single targets just hit different. Think of your Skahawks, think of your Tyras, think of your MHX altars, and think of the subject of today's video, Izumo no Okuni. She is very, very strong, and even if you don't have Scotty, maybe consider pulling for this servant because she is very, very strong. Now, obviously, if you're going to be saving for, say, Koyenskaya during New Year's, or you want to pull for Scotty because maybe you want to really use, you know, your Dantes or Summer Okita, you got some random quick looper you want to use. I understand that there are some other hype units to save for. I mean, Taigong is also going to be coming out later on this year. We have Melusine Rerun and a good potential Thanksgiving banner coming in about, say, a week or two, but this is not a servant you want to pass up. She's definitely very strong. And so at the very least, let's dive into kind of what she's able to do in this video so I can prepare you on all the things that she's going to do, and I'll also show you some footage in the background of me just kind of playing around with her. Now, before we begin, if you have not already, make sure you leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel for that daily FGO content, as your boy ZTL is going to make sure that you are informed on all the goings-on not only the NA version of the game, but the JP version as well. And if you want to see me play FGO live, I do that every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday over on my Twitch at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's in the link down in the description down below. But enough shilling, let's start moving into the actual kit of this unit, starting off with her hits. And immediately, one of the first things you should be drawing your eyes to is that insanely high NP gain set that she's rocking. 0.8% is nothing to scoff at, especially when her quick cards are at a really respectable 4 hits a pop, and she has a very strong arts card with 3 hits on it. But if that's not enough to sell you on that, she even has a passive 4% arts buff to just make her NP refund on that card a little bit stronger. You can kind of consider her a servant like, say, a Reshkagal or Masashi. Obviously not like doubling her hits like Masashi does, but more in line with that Ereshkigal style of gameplay where when you find the arts card, it's very, very impactful. And even more so whenever we get Mighty Chain, so you can just do like a Buster Quick Arts if you're using her more like, say, solo scenarios where you can guarantee all of her cards. It'll ensure that she is steadily firing her NP, which her NP has some very strong effects on it that really benefit from subsequent NPs being fired back to back. She's one of those servants that kind of just starts stacking as the fight goes on, or in her case, more debuffing as the fight goes on. But also because she's a quick servant, you should also have a lot of crit stars flowing in rotation. Again, Mighty Chains will make that a little bit easier, but her own star gen's not the craziest at 10.9%, but it's also not completely abysmal. She's also got 2 stars that are going to be coming from her passive, which I know doesn't sound crazy, but sometimes if you've used foreigner servants who have a very similar passive, you know that sometimes those extra little stars do come in clutch. She also does have a skill to kind of bomb a few stars if her star gen is not to your liking. You can also bring other servants around her, say your Scotties, your waivers, people along those lines, equip them with like a 2030, and if you don't have one, equip one of your friends' 2030s, bring on one of the free-to-play star bomb CEs. For instance, if you were playing during Oku, the free-to-play CE from that event, bomb stars. There are kind of ways to get around different issues you might be finding when using this servant, but I assure you, her kit more than makes up for any issues you might find with the base hits and everything. So starting off with her first skill, this is just a very good bread and butter skill. You almost just want to have this up 100% of the time. Now, you will notice it's on an oddly high 7-turn cooldown. Don't worry, she actually does have cooldown reduction. I mean, she wouldn't be a Tamamo face if she wasn't able to reduce her skill cooldowns. So realistically, you can kind of think of this as a 6-turn cooldown, which brings it more in line with normal survivability and buff type skills. It kind of meets in the middle there and is ultimately not all that bad. Now, she's going to be getting a 30% buff to her quick and a 30% buff to her buster cards for 3 turns. That's obviously very good. That is increasing the NP gain of her quick cards to make it just a little bit easier for her to find her NP. but then also it lets her double as being able to do some good buster crits, which when she dropped was a little bit weird. It was like, yeah, she has the double quick, double buster deck, kind of makes sense. She's built like Okita Alter, I guess. It makes some kind of sense that she would have a buff for both of those, but now that we have Ruler Scotty, it makes even more sense, because Ruler Scotty, if you don't know, we should be getting her next summer, not only gives you 65% quick buff, but she also gives you 100% buster crit damage. She's ridiculously good for these like split quick and buster units. And so Izumo will actually age very well, especially because Scotty pretty much gives you no survivability. And so it's always up to your quick DPSs or your AoE guys, whoever you're using with Scotty, to pretty much find their own survivability, because yeah, I know Scotty is like, oh, I have one hit of evasion that I can give you on my NP. That's fine and dandy and all, but that's probably not going to be enough, especially when you could easily just wipe somebody out with double Koyanskaya, or do the same thing with Castoria, but way more survivability and still a pretty good amount of firepower. So at the very least, she has 2 dodges for 3 turns, meaning you could pop this on a turn where you know an enemy NP is going to be coming your way, and then if they don't attack Izumo, that translates into another turn of survivability, or at least another hit of survivability. It's very rare for the enemy to like hit one unit 2 or 3 times unless they just really have it out for them that day. So it can be very nice in team setups. If you're using her as a solo servant, you probably will burn through all of these, because obviously you'll have one person on the field and that's her. So do keep that in mind. Maybe save this in more solo strats for NP big turns that the enemy's going to throw your way. Moving over to her second skill though, this is an interesting part of her kit, because in combination with her third skill, this is essentially on a 4-turn cooldown, and that makes this quite a bit stronger. It's going to give her very strong star weight for a turn, 100% just general crit damage for the turn, which is insane. If you need a little bit of a gauge for how strong that is, Waver gives you 50%, Merlin gives you 100%, Scotty gives you 100% specifically for your quick cards. Like, it's a very, very good amount of crit damage to have. You are going to nuke the enemy, but on top of that, during this turn, anytime you crit the enemy, you're going to lower their defense by 10% for 3 turns. So you pop this when you know you can pop off with a lot of crits. God forbid you do this during a Brave Chain where you have 100% crits on everything, which again, not all that hard to do in quick setups, especially when we get the Quick Chain buff and the Mighty Chain buff. And you've just lowered their defense by 30% for the next 3 turns and massively buffed up her damage. If you've looked at some of the damage charts, you'll notice that Izumo has quite a bit of variance. There's kind of her base damage, which isn't super impressive. It's like okay, but if you have Sanzo, Corday, or Ilya, you're probably going to be using them instead. But as soon as you start getting defense debuffs on the enemy, Izumo starts to look really good. And something else that these damage charts don't take into consideration is that every time she fires her NP, she's also building up more damage. So you could go from a turn of like firing the NP and then critting twice, and you've just massively increased the amount of damage you're going to be doing to the enemy, right? So like, she may look like she's not doing a lot of damage, but she builds up very, very quickly, on top of also having power mods, which is just an insane icing on the cake. But speaking of icing on the cake, there's the third skill. This is pretty much what I would say saves Izumo, and it's not the 50% battery. That's just going to be good regardless. That gives her a bonus niche of being able to be used in like weird 90 plus or weird 90 plus plus farming nodes, right? It just gives her extra utility. We love it when they have that. Think of your like Berserker Kentokis, who are just like these gods of farming because you can bring them in on these weird nodes and they just nuke a dude. Because of her power mods, she can actually do some pretty good damage and can still be brought in for those types of setups, especially if you get lucky and maybe snag an NP2 of this unit, or you get one of her right now and then you get another one under GSSR, she becomes even better. But it's that reduction of an ally's skill cooldown by 1, which you want to use on her, as we have been talking about throughout this video, because it takes her skills from being a little long to very good. Like, it takes that second skill from being like, okay, it's kind of a decent burst damage option, to being slightly more spammable at a 4 turn, and it takes the first skill at being an unreasonable, I would say, 7 turns to a more reasonable 6 turn. And if you think that 1 turn doesn't really matter, you have not been doing a lot of fights in FGO. There are so many fights that I can personally attest to that I would have won if I just had like 1 more turn. Now, some of that is attested to me using like a 555 servant, but those skill cooldowns do matter, right? Getting those extra turns can be very crucial. I mean, think of her first skill being survivability. Knocking that down an additional turn might actually save your run because you just get to live an extra turn because of that. Or the second skill ensuring that you can close out the fight on that turn because you get big crit damage. It might take a turn that was not going to be getting anywhere near killing the boss to being a guaranteed kill because you have 100% extra crit damage plus the 15 stars over here. Just in case you're lingering around like 35 stars, you can bring that up to 50 and guarantee all cards are critting regardless on that turn. That's also not to also mention that she does have a lot of passive crit damage going on in her passive skills, so her crits can definitely ensure that fights are going to get closed out. But this third skill just kind of completes the kit. I know when she first came out, I looked at her and I was like, okay, first skill looks okay, second skill looks okay, it's got some nice build up, and then the third skill is when my eyes kind of lit up. I was like, oh, this servant is built like perfectly. Like, I love the way they've designed this unit because if we skip down over to the NP, she has a power mod against demonic enemies, which is very strong. There is not only a decent bit of demonic trait servants, but there's also a good bit of demonic trait, random enemies that you will go up and fight against. Not excluding some who may be bosses in the future. Gonna be avoiding spoilers because, I don't want to spoil those for my NA only audience members, but if you know, you know. But then on top of that, it's got 10 hits, which is crazy for being able to refund your NP, especially once we get Ruler Scotty, who takes the 50% quick buff and blows it out of the water with her 65% quick buff, giving you even more NP refund on potential overkills. And it just helps you loop your NP that much easier. It helps you drop a lot of stars because it's a 10-hit quick NP. It can help you just get those extra stars. And on top of all of that, she's also reducing that enemy's quick resistance by 20% for 3 turns, and it procs first. So even if you don't want to use her as a boss killing servant, which is where she's probably going to excel, I'm just going to tell you that as a little bit of a hot take. This unit that is built to destroy bosses is going to be better in CQ style content, where every NP you fire, which you should be able to do relatively consistently, because even though Scotty's not quite up to par with Castoria and Koyanskaya, she's still giving you a 50% battery. You've got a 50% battery. You've got a 10-hit NP with insane natural NP refund. So spamming 3 NPs back to back to back should not be that tall of an order, and it allows you to massively build up your damage, and God forbid you're doing crits as well with the second skill. You don't want to use her for all that greatness. If you're going to use her as a farmer, she still gets that extra little bit of damage because you want to take out that one big chunky assassin or some big neutral demonic guy, or maybe it's a berserker, whatever have you. She still gets that bonus extra damage on this, and even if it's something that you need face cards for, your follow-up quick cards might actually be able to take the person out if you're, kind of struggling a little bit more. You're using like an NP1 Izumo, your box is a little bit more limited, it might actually help you out in that as well. This is just a servant that I really like their design for, and it is very hard for me to resist summoning for her because I think she is an insane sleeper pick for the year. I know a lot of people are going to skip out on her because Koyanskaya, both the old and the new one are going to be coming out for New Year's, and they're both very strong. Arguably, the Assassin is a must-have on all accounts. Melusine is also borderline a must-have on all accounts as well. Scotty is pretty much mandatory if you want to use quick servants, and she's going to be coming out. Thanksgiving Gacha could either have the Apocrypha servants, which have very popular characters that people want to summon for, or it's going to have 5 new limited servants that people are probably going to be saving for as well, or maybe you're also trying to save for Ryoma, and so this servant might get brushed under the rug. But if you're contemplating on summoning for her and you don't know if she's worth it, I do think she's worth it. If you do want to go for her, especially if you've got Scotty or someone to properly support her, she can look very, very strong. I have been very impressed with her showings for the last 2 years, and that's why for 2023 for NA, when I brought up all the units that are going to be coming out for the rest of the year, I always reference Izumo because she is really strong. She is good. I would not brush this person under the rug. I think at the worst case, because I'm trying to do, letter grades for these servants as we kind of do these new reviews, the worst you could give her is a B+, like an 85 to an 89 if you were to do like a math test or a spelling test or something, right? That's still a very solid grade. You can maybe argue there's some room for improvement. However, this might be my personal bias. I think you could bump her up to an A minus, anywhere from like a 90 to like a 93 on this hypothetical FGO test or whatever. I think you could slide that in there because I have been very impressed with her performance, even having to only bring her as a friend over on JP. I at least have Scotty over there so I can kind of do a little bit of shenanigans and still properly test them. But I really like this servant. I think she is very strong. But let me know in the comments down below if you're going to be summoning for this servant. I unfortunately will not be sapping everybody's luck away for this one, as I used all my luck on the MHX banner and got absolutely booty blasted. So hopefully your summons go well if you're going to be summoning for this servant. But even if you're not summoning for them, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. What grading would you put this servant at? And obviously, if you think I'm a big, dummy, stupid head, you can let me know that in the comments as well. But with all that being said, I will catch you guys on the flippity floppity. Peace late, guys.